provides us with Matrix. They're currently undergoing a full system redesign, and they don't design these things with board load in mind, nor do other MLS portal providers. Because of the heavy adoption of member load across North America in 10 plus years, even longer than that, 15 years, systems like Matrix are more and more member centric, and that includes the Add Edit module, how you get listings into the system. They're not being made for board load, and in fact we require customization in some cases to create the conditions for board load. So there's some friction down the road, not today, a little bit, but down the road more friction with a vendor like CoreLogic if we continue to maintain our current process for a very long time. Second, we now have the ability to send Matrix data right from your data form with the new Web Forms 19. We've been working on this for about 3 years with CREA. We were trying it under the old Web Forms product, but we were unsuccessful in getting that done. Web Forms 19 has been the catalyst to get that done, and it's going to greatly enhance the ease of members to get listings into the system, less time, less keyboarding, which, you know, the more keyboarding you have, I think the more chance of errors you have. So if you're able to fill in your data form to substantially complete, get an MLS number back from Matrix, get your documentation signed, and then finish the listing in Matrix, you've increased the chance that it's clean, and you're going to get it there quicker. And so that alone has really helped folks get data into the system. Excuse me. So what's the net of all of this? You're waiting for the but. The net of all of this is we are moving to the day when members will load their own listings and the board will have a strictly monitoring compliance angle. This has happened in many other jurisdictions. You are not the first to be doing this. In fact, we are one of the last to be doing this. Do we have a timeline on this? Not yet. That's part of why we're here, is we want to be able to consult with members and with brokers, because this affects brokers' workflow in many cases. So we need to work with brokers, we need to work with members and talk about how do we educate on this, how do we roll this out, and what are the appropriate timelines to do so. We're mindful of the fact that we're 70-30 board load to broker load. This has not been the culture in our association as the majority. But it's interesting, the councils were 100% member load. Moose Jaw, before they joined, was member load, and now there's a bit of a hybrid. And in Saskatoon, they've been 100% member load for this year. And so, you know, we're just looking at the landscape and looking at the reality that's around us. So we don't have an exact timeline, but the consultation has started and will continue. And as the SRA has stood up, we'll then look at options on how we get to where ultimately we're going to have to go. So stick with us on this. We haven't forgot about your workflows and about the importance of getting data in accurately and quickly. And we look forward to working with you on the issue of member load. So with that, if there's any questions before we move on.
No question.
Sure.
On the new web forms, where you can send to Matrix, would the agents require member load training in order to have access to that as well?
Great question. Tim asked that for the send documents button to be live on Web Forms 19, would they have to have the training? And the answer is yes. So if you're someone who does not have broker load access on your account in Matrix because you haven't taken the training, that button will not be there. So once you get the training, it's turned on, and then you can go to town. So you don't see the Add Edit module in Matrix either without that training. So that's one way we ensure that folks who have that ability have gone through the rigors of understanding the power that you have when you have that ability, and to make sure they're doing it correctly. So it's a good question, Tim.
Yep. So brokerages that are currently doing broker load, do they have to go through training?
If you have broker load already, you're in and you're good. You're off. Yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Go ahead.
I tried the broker load on the old system. It's a lot more complex than on the new system, because on the new system all you do is fill out your data in a good sheet. You push a button and it goes to Matrix. you get your listing signed and you just go in as if the board loaded it and finish it up. But on the old broker load, it's a little bit harder to find, but on the new system, it's a lot easier with just the one button, because you just fill out your forms as normal.
Yeah, Tim's point is that the new web forms is making it a lot easier to get that data into Matrix and get going and get that listing started. So, Jason.
Yeah, I've had good feedback from some agents that are using it as well, especially full-time. Nothing worse than sitting on a Saturday morning than a listing that's supposed to be a Friday. So for those agents, they love it.
Yeah, good comment. Yeah, thank you.
So is there do you monitor that if you do broker load and it goes right on to Matrix? Do you still monitor it in case there's mistakes?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, every listing in our association is checked. So it's just something that we have to have as that second set of eyes, and it is amazing what they catch. It's unbelievable how much stuff comes to us with no client signatures. The commission put the same in both places. We catch a lot of that stuff. So absolutely, we still will monitor listings regardless of the entry method into Matrix.
So when you find something, then what happens? Physically what happens? If your listing's on MLS and you find something, what happens to the listing?
So once the listing goes in by broker load, it's up, and then the data department will go through their broker loads and start checking them. If they see something's amiss, they'll just flag it, and it tells the system to only hold it in Matrix, so it stops it from going to public portals. Currently, that also gives you the administrative penalty, but that won't happen as of January 1, but it holds it back from Realtor.ca and other public portals. And if there's something really off, then they can just put it into hidden status until we get the problem corrected.
What if it's already on Realtor.ca?
Pardon me?
What if it's already on Realtor.ca?
It will come off in the next feed. So Tim's question was, what if it's already on Realtor.ca? Then the next time we upload that listing, it won't be in the list and it will not appear anymore. So.
When we're talking about Fridays and people wanting stuff up, wouldn't it have made sense to just hire an extra person for Fridays, because rather than work our staff to death and try to get so that there's more help?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the question is, why don't we just add more folks? Then we can just do more volume even in the off periods of time. We have talked about that. We talked about what does it look like to have a data person on the night shift, so we can keep going. But organizationally, there's a balance there. We have to be mindful of staff costs. We have to be mindful of operating costs. We have to be mindful of those are the types of costs that never go down. They always go up over time. So you have to look at it from an organizational standpoint and say, how are we using the resources that we have access to on the staff team? And so that's a consideration that we took to say, I don't think adding more data staff is the right way to go. I think long term, that's not going to be the best way to go. Mike?
We've talked about this before, but we currently pay to have the association enter listings for us. And now we're encouraging everybody to broker load. What happens to the cost of putting up a listing?
So Mike's question is, we pay a listing fee, and I think the way Mike worded it was that we pay the association to load listings. That's been one of the big misconceptions over the years, because we've been a board load model, that's a loading fee. But in fact, that's not a loading fee, that is a listing fee. That is a fee to get your listing into the multiple listing service, regardless of the method of entry. So the answer to the question is yes, in the new world, there will still be listing fees. They will be $18 as stated in the member forward business plan, as opposed to the current 20. But yes, there still will be listing fees, not a loading fee. Mike and I disagree on this. If you can't tell.
No, I mean, if we go to 100% broker load for members of the association, that's going to save the association some costs.
Not really, no. I don't think it's done as a cost-saving endeavor. Like I just talked about, we're reallocating resources to do higher level functioning, in my view. So it's moving the pieces of the puzzle around so that they're best utilized. So it's not being done as a cost-cutting measure. The amalgamation allowed us to bring that listing fee down, which I think is a win, but not because of cost cutting per se.
Yeah, but for $2, a lot of agents aren't gonna bother, I'll let somebody else do it for that extra $2. $10 savings, I think you get a lot of people.
Yeah, fair comment. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Anybody else with questions?
One more.
Yep.
Are there gonna be any further web forms, training sessions?
Yes, great question. Web forms training, we are continuing that model. So I think, is it Thursdays that we're doing that? I think it's Thursdays, right? Yeah, so every Thursday we're gonna be offering some training. If you need Justice and Carly to come out to your brokerage and do a little bit more hand-to-hand combat on the product, then absolutely we can do that, and we have been doing that, and it's been very successful. Just to, not to rehash the web forms issue, but I think we've benefited from the amount of time we've had to get used to this product. I can say that we made a conscious decision to go early. We were the first ones in the country to get 19 unlocked for us, and we did it with intent so that we could spend all of the year allowing members to get used to the system and learn the system before the old one was gone. That system it's being retired, so there is no turning back on the legacy platform of web forms. It will be turned off, and so your folks need to be up to speed on the new product. So if they're not, ask around at your brokerage, ask around at your brokerage meetings. If your folks are not using 19, ask them why and get them to do it, because time is running out on that, and we have no control over that. It is ending. So we were hoping that lead time would alleviate the issue that we run into, or the commission runs into with CPD every year, where you've got the majority of people doing it in the last week. We just don't want you to experience that with web forms, because we don't want you or your people in front of clients learning a product on the fly. That's never a good place to be. So get them to dig into that if they have not, and we can train on it. So it's a good question. Anything else? All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out again. It's been great.
All right, thanks, Rob. Before we move to the next agenda here, Karen, she's got an announcement.
No, you're making it.
No, you're making it.
Oh, come on. Stay there for a second. And then Heather, you can fill in the blanks where you need to, okay? So I just asked because our staff is working really hard to plan a final mixer for us as ARR, and it'll be our last legacy mixer or wind down or whatever we want to call it. So we really want to encourage you all as brokers to promote it and come out and support it, and it'll be a great event before Christmas to have everybody together as the ARR one last time. So it's Thursday, November the 28th, 7 p.m. at the West Canada Golf and Country Club, which will be fantastic. A decision has been made to open it up to our partners, meaning our community partners, city council, the mayor, as always, home inspectors, our lawyers that we work with regularly are always invited to come and join us for that event, and this time it'll be super fun, I think. Heather, who else are we inviting to join us if they choose to? Saskatoon's gonna come and join us, yay, that's great. Yeah, like the Regina, or what's it called, Family Center? North Central, Family Center, sorry, probably, who else, Heather? Have I missed anybody? Economic Development, the group that we're working with there. Chamber of Commerce, correct? So, Home Builders Association. So it's going to be a really fun event, you guys, and the location couldn't be better. So we would just encourage you, you guys to really promote it within your brokerages, and let's have a really fun, successful evening on the 28th of November.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move back to our agenda here. Another SRA-related topic for you today. We're pleased to have Sean Cummings, the Director of Education with the Saskatoon Association, here with us today to talk about the future and opportunities for member-centric education in SRA. Member education is more than just new member orientation. As a certified adult educator, Sean has been working tirelessly the past couple of years to implement an education renewal for the Saskatoon members. Because of the SRA, the entire membership would now benefit from the hard work that he's been doing. I'd like to invite Sean to come up to give us an update.
I love education. Ask anybody at that table, I'm bonkers over it. I'm very passionate about it. And this discussion today, we're going to talk about new member training, but also the way in which you develop adult education, because it's not a formulaic approach. I'm glad to say that there's some people in this room who are not Saskatoon members that I've done training with, and they've participated in some of the stuff that we've done and got their feedback. So education equals success, we all agree with that. In 2016, our association embarked on a process we called educational renewal, a complete reboot of how we delivered education. We didn't do a whole lot, like we really didn't. It was mostly products and services training, and we had sort of an ad hoc new member course, and it wasn't grounded in adult education principles, it wasn't structured properly. So we wanted to do something that was going to be meaningful and flexible enough that we could add stuff to, you'll see in a second. After conducting an internal review of existing core offerings, we decided to align education with our association's mission, which was, or still is, sorry, to support and enhance our member success and value as professional realtors. And that's like a blanket statement, because how do you define success and how do you define value? Well, as we're going to talk about today, you get a lot of that through an educational process. So how do you align education with member success? Well, we need to identify what makes a realtor competent. And the really great thing about all you smart people in here, if I asked you all what makes a realtor competent, I'm going to get different answers. And that's what you want, because you are all subject matter experts, every single one of you. And you have something to say, and you have something to contribute. So we also needed to ground things in what are called core competencies. Now, does anybody know what core competencies are? Not a lot? Okay. Well, briefly, core competencies are at the center of the redesign of curriculum and assessment. They're sets of intellectual, personal, social, and emotional proficiencies that all learners need to develop to engage in deep learning and lifelong learning. And ultimate goals for learners to employ the core competencies every day in their professional capacity. It's all part of their service process. Okay. So how do we develop them? Well, here's how we did it. I was adamant, ask anybody at that table, that it wasn't to be perceived as a staff-driven initiative. So we hired a professional facilitator. It's a really crappy picture, I'm sorry, but that's Vicky Torres from Torres & Associates in Saskatoon. And she facilitated the process. We filled the room with subject matter experts from residential, farm, commercial real estate, as well as sales and marketing, okay? And over a period of a couple days, she helped us put together a lot of information from our subject matter experts. What did a realtor need to know to be competent? We gleaned so much stuff from our subject matter experts that we got pages and pages and pages of raw data. I have enough raw data now to write new member courses for the next 50 years. Okay? So it was really useful. And this is all broken down from category, from residential to commercial and so forth. And that was important because our course was really only focusing at the time on residential. Well, in this province, you're licensed in all three. So from the perspective of the best thing for our members, but also from the perspective of risk management for everybody, we might want to touch on the other things beside residential as part of our new member training. So there are a lot of stuff here. We have commercial raw data, farm raw data. I'm telling you, I wrote the course. I know more about soil classification in this province than I ever dreamed I would know in my life. I know where to grow everything now. It's great. This led us to the development of our core competency model. Some of you folks have seen this before. The competency-based framework has been structured into three primary areas of focus with each of the competencies aligned to specific themes. So the first one, which is in the top left, is skills and knowledge that are essential to all realtors. And our subject matter experts determine building relationships, good communication skills, marketing and branding. How do you get people to be aware that you're actually out there trying to sell houses or property? And then that led to skills and knowledge, which is the second category, or specialization focus, based on your area of specialty. Okay, because you are all specialists in specific areas. And the last one, is those competencies required for meeting continuous learning needs and ensuring peak performance. Peak performance is a big thing. Does anybody here like the Rough Riders? I heard the people here like the Rough Riders. Can they win the Grey Cup without doing any training? Can anybody name a sports franchise that won their national or world championship without doing any training? Right? Well, you're all brokers, you're all competitive, you're all team leaders. That's the same sort of thing. We want to make the tools available for everybody so they can implement those things. We then decided, well, we have to reboot our new member course. So shortly after we developed the core competency model, we began the process of rebooting our course with aligning learning objectives alongside the core competency model. And we once again assembled subject matter experts. That's how you do it. When you build a course, you get subject matter experts. And you glean the information from them. And you get someone like me who does curriculum design to take that information and put it into an actual structured package. That's how it works. So we had people from all the different areas, commercial, farm, residential, and as well as sales and marketing. And we asked them all one simple question. You know what's coming. What does a new realtor need to know in order to be successful? That's ground zero for the new member course. That's how we started. What does a person need to know to get through this? Okay? This led to the creation of the course curriculum, and this is, I mean, some of you probably can't see all this, but we're covering a lot of things. And we can't even cover everything that a realtor needs to know, because you all have licensing manuals. There's a lot of information there. But this is literally copied and pasted from the workbook. So I just put that in there so you can see what we're talking about. Like water well quality, septic. I know so much about septic systems now. I didn't know how they worked before. And now I know. So it's been exhausting and rewarding work. And then we also realized that if we're going to have instructors that are from the membership, because I don't want to instruct this thing, I want all you all to instruct it. So we had to have everybody instructing in a similar fashion. And so we developed a brand new course called Train Like a Pro. So one of the goals was to have members teaching members. That's a big, big thing for me. Members teaching members. Collective learning. It's a big deal. And to ensure consistency in the delivery, we developed the course. And it's also for anybody to instruct this or any training that our association does. But also, if you're interested in learning, maybe you're a broker and you want to implement some training in your shop. You know, it's for anybody to take and start to learn the fundamentals of how to do that. So all instructors at our association are required to complete the course. That's it. You can't instruct course until you do the course. Well, we've now delivered it twice in Saskatoon. The first one was last year, and that was this year. We actually had members from as far away as Swift Current coming to take the course, which was really kind of cool. And then again, we did it this past July here in Regina. So there's some of your fellow members here in Regina doing the course. We had 20 people, and there's people in this room that were on that course. So it was really very rewarding to get people excited about what we're trying to do here. And after designing the new member course through much of 2017 and early last year, we launched the pilot course for the new course last October. Okay? And again, instructors from the membership. Learners received 2 workbooks with individual and group activities. The one on the left is a new member course learning guide, which covers commercial, residential, and farm, and the basics of sales success on the right-hand side, which is getting people to understand how to actually do sales, okay? Because you are all in commission sales. We've now conducted 4 new member courses at our association using the competency model. In April 2019, we had 20 participants in class, and we are also wired for distance learning. So we're doing it distance learning as well. We got a new member up in the north. It's ridiculous that they should have to come to Saskatoon. So we've got them plugged in through distance learning. In June, we had 12 participants and 5 via distance learning. So that's sort of the direction we're going with it. And how did members feel about the course? Well, they liked it, I think. We use Net Promoter Score as one of the ways of measuring. Now, if anybody's familiar with Net Promoter Score, it's a really great baseline to see whether or not people like what you're doing, because one of the ways that you know people like what you're doing is whether or not you get word of mouth and people are talking about it. So, the Net Promoter Score question we used was as follows. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it you would recommend this course to a friend or a colleague? 0 to 6 are detractors, they think it sucks. Okay? 6, 7, 8 are passive, it was okay. All right? And the last is what we call the promoters. 9 and 10 are promoters, they're enthusiastic supporters who are going to recommend the course to other people. So what does the scoring mean? What does that translate to in real life? Well, the Net Promoter Score people tell us that generally, if the score is below 50, it's an indicator you need to start understanding and improving your customer satisfaction levels. If it's over 50, you're doing pretty good. Okay? This indicates you place customer satisfaction in a high priority, and you've got a lot more satisfied people than dissatisfied people. An NPS of 70 or more places you in the list of top customer-centric companies. It means your clients love you, can generate a lot of positive feedback, and so forth. Well, the cumulative Net Promoter Score for the new member course is 70, and that's from us having done 4 courses. I double-checked it and triple-checked it, and went, that's pretty cool. I was really impressed with that. So you can see where the detractors are, and you can see where the promoters are. And we did Net Promoter Score for Train Like a Pro that we did here in Regina just this past July, and that's the score of 73. So we're hitting the mark where we need it to go, and that kind of makes sense because it's all coming from people like you, getting that educational material, building the course, getting it out to people so they can be successful. We're not done yet though. Educational offerings have to be constantly reassessed. It's a constant cycle. It's like the laundry on spin, just going round and round and round again to see what we can do better. How do we do it? Well, ongoing evaluation is fundamental. So when you identify a learning need or you structure the course, you do a needs analysis, training and development, training delivery, and you're constantly evaluating through the whole cycle of the program. That's it. I ask anybody again at that table, I am bonkers over metrics. I need numbers. I want to know how successful we're doing. And that's important because I want to get that information out to the members so they can see how successful this stuff is. And that's where we want your help, okay? We need your help, and I'll tell you how. Members helping members. We're busily recruiting instructors. As a matter of fact, when I'm done here, I'm going over to the Regina office to have an instructor meeting to talk about the new member course. To deliver educational programming in Moose Jaw, Regina, and areas that cover the regional councils. We would like to add a new course component to the new member course for brokers who will be looking, and so we're going to be looking for broker subject matter experts. You're all brokers, you're all subject matter experts. I would love to hear from you if you'd like to be part of subject matter experts so we can add a new module to the new member course for anybody who's a broker that wants to come into the association. Okay? And that's where I'm going to rely on you. What does a broker need to know to be successful? If I ask you all that, we'll probably have a whole bunch of different answers, and that's a good thing. Okay? We're also looking for subject matter experts from Regina, Moose Jaw, and areas that cover the regional councils to further enhance the new member course. Just because it's done doesn't mean that it isn't going to be built on and done better. So we want to hear from everybody else in the rest of the province, what can we do to make new member training better and more effective? Because the goal here is to get people to hit the ground running, right? So they can stay in the industry and survive the first couple of years. So get involved in realtor education. We want to hear from members. Got an idea for a learning opportunity that members would benefit from? Let us know. We want to know. Interested in becoming an SRA instructor? Let us know. Okay. I'll be doing another Train Like a Pro next month in Regina for Regina instructors or for anybody else that may be interested. If you're interested, contact Justice at the Regina office or contact me at the Saskatoon office. Happy to discuss. And if you do call me, I got to warn you, it's going to be well to get off the phone. Because once you start calling me about education, I'll talk your ear off. Okay? My wife is faculty at the University of Saskatchewan. She's an educator. So guess what we talk about at my house all the time? Education. We're the most boring people in the world. Okay? But we want to hear from you because we really want to put together an amazing education program for a new provincial association. Innovative, member-centric, results-focused. I'm big on metrics. It's a new association. We have an amazing opportunity. We don't have to do licensing and CPD. So we can really look at what realtors need to learn to survive in this business and make it better and make it more professional and ultimately make more successful agents out there. Let's build a more innovative, member-driven educational curriculum, the most in organized real estate. Any questions for me? I know it's fast and furious, but on a schedule. Any questions on this? Yes, sir.
So when would the first course for new realtors be in Regina?
Well, we have to put together the dates for courses for next year, but starting in if there's one in January, it will be the new course. You bet. Any other questions?
You said next month you would be doing the training?
Yes. You bet. We're doing Train Like a Pro. They can do 20 people in Regina maximum, so yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you very much for listening to me, and if you have any questions, please shout out.
Right, so this is the Trestle data feed management, and up next we have Brian Kanash, who's the IT manager in Saskatoon, to talk to us about a product called Trestle. Come on up.
Well, it's nice to be here in front of all of you. I'm used to speaking in front of Saskatoon brokers, and it's nice to really start to get to know some of you. There's a few familiar faces in the room. Bear with me, my title's IT manager, not public speaker, so I will do the best I can here. The product I'm talking about today is Trestle. I'm not sure if everyone reads their newsletters. I believe everyone reads every word in them, but there was an announcement about a month and a half ago that came out, that Renee sent out provincially regarding Trestle coming forward. Despite the timing, Trestle is not a product that's tied with SRA, with amalgamation or anything. It's a product that's been in the works for the past 2 years on my desk. We've been working with CoreLogic to address a number of issues and looking for technological solutions to address issues that include things like data security, finding out and being able to prevent scraping of data, managing data, as well as managing and automating the contract portion of that data. So one of the products we evaluated a couple of, we looked at through Zillow, there's the Bridges program, as well as the Trestle platform through CoreLogic. And CoreLogic being our primary vendor with the MLS system, it made the most sense to go that route for us. As I said, we've been working for a couple of years on getting this in. We ran into some snags with it not being ready for Canadian taxation and the billing platform, etc. What Trestle means is how we distribute reciprocity feeds, meaning the feeds that contain all your data as a group, to vendors for your websites, for your back-end systems, for various aspects, is going to be no longer handled directly from the Matrix platform. It's going to go through this Trestle platform. The big change will be vendors will need to sign up their Trestle accounts, and new contracts will need to be signed, and it'll all be digital signatures. So the changes are not major. On the implementation end for this platform for the vendors, it's simply a matter of changing the URL they connect to, the username and password they connect to. They will be pulling the data in the same feed format as they do currently. So there's no remapping of data at this point. It's just a straight change from this address to this address. In the process, effective January 1st, the vendors, not the members, will incur a small service fee to manage those feeds through the Trestle platform. This is pretty much industry standard in other areas. We're one of the few associations that I know of in the country, as well as the states, where fees do not apply to rents. This is bringing that in. The vendors will pay fees similar to they pay elsewhere. So we don't anticipate, outside of maybe the one or two small local mom and pop web shops where they don't deal in other markets, there need to be any adjustment to fees or anything that you guys incur. The bigger shops already pay these fees in other markets. And I'm getting a little nervous up here. So the practice will be really to bring this in. There's a couple other issues we're trying to address in the process at the same time. One is a move towards RESO compliance. As the industry in North America moves towards a RESO compliance, Korea has gone on board with the RESO organization for the real estate standards, with stepping up to do French translation to begin moving Korea's NDS into RESO compliance. Our CoreLogic vendors have been moving towards RESO compliance with our data. So that data across North America is within a standardized format. Moving to Trestle moves us one step towards that RESO compliance. Like I said, IT manager, not public speaker. I really want to open up to questions is what I would like to do and answer it direct, because I don't know the level of understanding that the brokers in Regina have of why we're doing this and what we're doing, and then I'd like to be available to answer those.
I have a question.
Kevin.
So what you're telling me is that companies right now for free, and then they in turn charge us.
Yeah, so right now the model is companies are getting rich off your data
Okay.
by charging you to use it.
And they get it for free.
They get it for free right now, yeah. And that is the current model in Saskatchewan. And like I said, across Canada, when I go to things like Create TPG, people look at me and go, what, you don't charge for your data? We've been charging for years. And as we look at it, it doesn't make sense for the maintenance, the security, the management coming out of member fees to hire and pay our staff to maintain and look after these for them to get to profit off. Right? It makes more sense for the vendors to pay a fee to a managed system that reduces the management on our end to allow them to conduct business. There's not many business practices where you can get your members to give you everything for free to get rich off them. It's a strong platform. And the biggest thing that we're moving towards, which will be a second phase down the road, is a move to the full RESL compliance. Once we get to the RESL compliance, the platform allows us to see the data and backtrack where that data gets sent to. So in the current model, if you have a RETS feed, we have no methodology of validating that it's only being used in that location and hasn't been redistributed. Right? The Trestle platform gives us an ability, if we find our members' data on a site that's not authorized to have it, there are background methodologies to trace whose feed that came from and deal with it. Right? And that's been a history over the years of having poor sites scraping data, having stale data, not having accurate information. And I've seen it a lot with a lot of Regina members, in fact, where we've had reports of this site has this listing on it, that listing was 2 years ago. Right? And we can't get them to take it down. Right? And so this allows us to at least know where that data is coming from and chasing it through the whole system manually. And it's a very complex process. People who are developing the Trestle system and that security component are the same ones who manage our password policy and our maintenance or monitoring of your login into our system. Right? We use different techniques to monitor and identify misuse of our system and misuse of the data. Right? And at the end of the day, it's about protecting it and building the appropriate parties for that. Next question.
So is this just a Saskatchewan solution, or is it in conjunction with the Canadian Real Estate Association? Or?
In what sense? Our implementation is we're implementing Trestle province-wide for Saskatchewan. Across North America, Trestle's gotten a high adoption rate and is rolling out in many different areas.
Yeah, I'm just talking about I guess the cost for us locally and whether other jurisdictions are doing it, or if it's a
Which cost?
You mentioned the cost to...
The cost is to the vendor. So if I was to put a name on the hat and say, if your site was with, say, Real Estate Webmasters, right, they would have an account and they would pay a flat rate for a feed with Trestle, and they would pay a flat access for, depending on the number of sites within our association, for data access, and there's no fee to you as a member.
Do you have information you can share on?
I can, Trestle will be sending out a communication here shortly, but I'll make sure it contains all of that data for you. We'll be sending it out shortly. We just, on Thursday, got the contracts in place. All the contracts will be managed via Authentisign, so it will all be digital signatures. And that will be the main hit to you guys as brokers. When the system goes live and people start making the move over, you'll go through the process of having to digitally sign those member access contracts for your members to have sites with the rest of us needing element. Whether it be, again, quick and painless digital signatures.
Are you gonna have the names of those website providers, or do we have to supply them to you so that you can reach out to them?
Well, we currently have lists, because we currently monitor and maintain and provide all the RETS feeds to those vendors. So we've got the contact information and the information going out to those vendors. So between the associations and Trestle, the Trestle organization itself, they will be managing communications to the vendors and to you guys as the brokers as well directly. Beyond that, the level of technical support available through Trestle and their team directly is a lot higher than we can provide at the association level. So when the vendors do have problems, they've now got access to a much broader range of phone support through Slack channels, as well as direct email support on how to implement, how to deal with contract issues, signing issues, and all that. So it'll streamline a lot of aspects.
Can you anticipate these website providers being okay with having to pay a fee? What if some of them don't want to? And those agents that have sites with them are going to be pooped?
Well, with the exception of a few small one-stop shops, small mom-and-pop shops that might be local, I don't anticipate seeing that. Any of the larger vendors are going to be dealing with in larger markets where they have to, and most of them already are. So from that standpoint, and how the fee structures stand, I don't want to dig too deep into the weeds, but I spent a decade as a RETS vendor and as a DDF vendor myself, and I was the small boutique, 1 or 2 sites in a market, which is the scenario that is the hardest hit by going this route. And from a business model standpoint, it does make sense even as a vendor. It just gives me better access. It gives them better access, better support, cleaner contract management. It's a pretty straightforward process for them. But if you have a specific model, you know, we can discuss it. And like I said, this has to do with reciprocity data feeds as well. Now, as brokers, through Trestle for things like back-end systems where you're dealing with just your own office data, you're all provided with feeds as well, free of charge, no fees attached, because it's your data for use how you guys do it. And that is for your office data for that type of system. And there'll be more communications coming out as well. Anyone else?
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just gonna anticipate what's going to come from members, and they're gonna say, okay, so now what happens when my real page, for example, starts charging me extra because they're having to pay? So is there a benefit on the other side coming back if there's a income generation?
So my response to that would be, when you're looking at something like your example, My Real Page, they're charging their members in Calgary the same amount they're charging their members in Regina. In Calgary, they're already paying these fees. So right now, those companies are making, for Saskatchewan, to them, it's just that extra money they make without giving it back to you. So their fee structures on the larger offices are already set up to accommodate fees in markets.
You see, for them to remain competitive, they're probably not going to increase their fees based on this change.
They should not be increasing their fees in Saskatchewan unless they have different fees for, say, Calgary versus Saskatchewan or Ontario versus Saskatchewan, which they don't. Our pricing is international level anyways. That's kind of right. And to be clear, any of the companies where you have 5, 10 sites or more, the average they will pay per site is about $5 a month. So we've worked the fees to be in a reasonable level. So it's not an exorbitant amount of money that all of a sudden here, it's going to cost them $100 a month to do your site, that they're only charging you that much for already, you know, that sort of scenario. So.
Brian, you mentioned Rezo a couple of times. Can you explain to everybody what that is?
Sure. Can I get a show of hands of everyone in the room who's heard the term Rezo before? That, you only got one tentative little hand up there. So, Rezo is a term I became familiar with about 12 years ago when I left Point 2, where I worked, and when I went independent and became RETS and DDF certified as a vendor. Rezo stands for, it's the Real Estate Transaction, or Real Estate Standard Organization. That's primarily been functioning in the US. Canada's now getting on board with Korea, taking on the French translations. Rezo is an attempt to bring standardization North America-wide to all the different data fields that are common throughout real estate into common terms so that data can flow between different systems cleanly and effectively, right? And we see it now, right now, when you don't have a standard, and you look even at our MLS system, and the problems we have is sometimes how things flow into realtor.ca. Good one right now, I've got Mahota back at the office going through all our data load scripts from CoreLogic that pushes our data into that is a dishwasher, right? Because of inconsistencies of how we map that data between 4, it doesn't show up properly right at the moment, right? So we're in the process of fixing all these little things, and we send hundreds of fields that where there's differences, it just doesn't flow. And every time you move it from one place to the next, we have to say, well, this is this, this is this, this is this if this condition and this condition and this condition are true, if not, it's that. And it's just an attempt to bring that all together. And finally, after 12 years of watching this, and when I first saw it 12 years ago, I was like, oh, this is exciting. I can do red sites, and my vendors, or as a vendor, or as a member, I can create a platform where everything just works. And then when I joined the association a couple of years ago, Rezo is still not there. It's gaining that traction, and so bringing the platinum certification that the Trestle platform has means all these places that, as laypersons, we stand back and go, well, of course our data should flow from here to there to there to there, and there shouldn't be any mistakes, and it should all make sense. Getting to Rezo, that's how we get there. So the first step in this process is get us into Trestle. Without trying to get too technical, we're moving what are called our native endpoints into Trestle. So when they connect to Trestle on January 1st, or between now and January 1st, they will receive the exact same feed, the same field names, the same data as is, so they don't have to change how they map it into your site. It is literally, here's the new address, here's the new password, done. Over the next year, we're going to encourage our vendors to move to remapping data into the Rezo standard compliant format. And that's just benefit to everyone for how our data flows downstream. We don't technologically know where the industry is going to go. We see some ideas. We see new products coming out. For that to all go smoothly and for us to be able to adopt things that prove themselves in the market as valuable, but then be able to adopt them being in a standard allows us to do that quicker, more effectively, with less hiccups. So, anything else? Okay. Well, thank you for your time. And like I said at the beginning, I have direct relationships with the Saskatoon brokers as we move forward into SRA. I want to have that same direct accessibility to you guys, because I'm used to dealing with Regina as Saskatoon. I've got the Saskatoon members and Regina as a client. And now I look forward to having all of you. And I like to be accessible. We operate on we're here to serve you guys in your best interests. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. All right, we are now at the open discussion forum. Anybody with any comments, any questions?
I got a quick one.
Okay.
So for this new notice of sale form, is there going to be some sort of a document stating what the intention of the seller is as far as whether they want it to be reported conditional or not, or is it just a conversation that we're having?
Jason, that would be up to the individual brokerages or members to have that documentation. So you're emailing or making notes, or however you want to do it, come up with a form, however you see fit in your business.
Form won't change.
No.
Is that, they won't be changing ever, or they're just not going to?
Well, no. You never say never. Just say, as it says, you're handling
As
that.
soon as somebody has an argument over what they said.
Let's walk it in.
Any other questions, comments? All right, so as Sean said, Brian said, it seems the theme of today's meeting is if you have any new things you want to see, if you have any ideas, please pass it on. I always say talent wins games, teamwork wins championships. So let's work together, let's build our association, let's have the best education system, or whatever other ideas you have, let's bring you forward. Thank you very much for coming today, guys.